Pulisic dentro, Rafa. Gol! Ebram! Gol! È l'azione più bella del mondo! È l'azione più bella!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined for, I guess, technically the final time in 2024-25 terms, Anthony Torgrud.
Well, thank God, and I have as many headsets in the last month as episodes. So here we are again. This one looks like the old one, but it's a new boomstick, new cord. It's got the little cushioning on it. So hopefully this one doesn't sound bad and there's no complaints. But the brand new one out of the box that I used last week, there were complaints. So it's been returned, as was the one prior to that. So
you look like an air traffic controller.
Here we go. Yeah. Just got a lot of refund money waiting for me.
AirPods.
Oh, you said
about I said about
and
that.
I had to do with Isaac.
Yeah, Isaac, our sound engineer, intern.
I think audiophile sounds more appropriate for him.
Yeah. Along with another thing you called him on the bonus pod. Maddie is here too. Nice backdrop.
Thanks. I got kicked out of my room. Apparently, a baby needs a room more than I need an office. So,
I don't know. That seems fair. As mentioned, final episode of the season. We will close it out here by talking about the final game of 2024-25. It wasn't a particularly thrilling one, but it was at least a win to end the season. We'll talk about everything around it. But before we dive into the episode, I want to say thank you, as always, to our Substack founding members. Since it's the final time, I'll read it in reverse order. Medicare, Ken, Roberto Racinos, Marco Villela, Tarek, JT, Physio, Mike Schulz, Evanly 13, Derek Favretto, Merlin Finker, Nasser, Carlo, Fassi, Rajat, Raul Escobar, Luke Villano, Mats, MJ, Kemin, Joey Gawler, Moritz Pullman, Tito, Matt, and Des Windsor McGlynn. Thank you for all the support you've showed us during this season. It's been a difficult season, as we've spoken about many times, but we really appreciate you still engaging and reading and absorbing the content that we're putting out, including on the Substack, link in the description, as always. Over the past week, the pub chat that Lorenzo and Stefano did kind of stole one of the ideas that I had for us. They did a full player ratings for 2024-25. But
they were very gracious with a lot of their ratings, a lot of high ratings, and I was kind of confused. But
what they give Musa?
He was the lowest. Seth gave him a 2.5. Lorenzo gave him a 3.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
But no, I agree.
There was an 8.5 given out, so just keep that in mind.
I mean,
to who?
We can all guess who that was for, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Still,
I'm like,
but we won't spoil it.
Giving out these. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. We won't spoil it. Go and listen for the rest of the ratings. There's been a mixed reaction as is predicted. But look, if you look at the comments section every time Isaac does player ratings for any game, he gets all kinds of hate speech. We've even had emails threatening us. So genuinely,
the comment section for a bit.
So we love all our fans. The bonus pod that me and you did, AJ, at the end of last week was about the failure of Milan's Futuro project. Basically, everything that culminated over the 11-12 months to the eventual relegation to Serie D. Isaac's bonus article was about whether Cardinale could actually sell Milan after what has been, as mentioned, an absolutely horrible season with all the protests that are going on and things like that. Could he really sort of cash his chips in and just move on earlier than expected, given how the tide of public opinion's going? He assesses the various possibilities there. You can get a newsletter too for, we spoke about missing out on European competition after that defeat against Roma, but in that is all the major news articles from the past week as well. So go to the Substack. It's going to be a really, really big summer, a lot of big decisions to make. The first one has been made, and we're going to talk about that with Iglitare arriving, but there are plenty more pieces to fall into place, and we'll have everything analysed over on the Substack, including bonus pods to come throughout the summer. All right, boys, let's dive in, do the final game, the curtain call, as Marshall Mathers would call it. We played Monza, who were already relegated. In fact, they'd been relegated since about December. It's just not been a good season for them. They sacked Nesta just before, was it in December? I think they sacked him in December and then brought him back in February, which I miss shit like that. Remember Genoa when they hired like Zamparini 3 times in the same season and stuff? I do miss the kind of wacky president stuff, but Monza had, they'd done well on their return to Serie A and they set up quite comfortably, but this year everything sort of fell off for them a little bit. I wanted to start by talking about the lineup because the big news was no Leao and no Teo playing. In fact, they didn't play at all, as it would turn out. So there was some talk about them, given the rumours surrounding their future, being denied a farewell at San Siro. Are we, reading anything into that? The fact that they didn't start? Was it purely because they maybe weren't 100%? Was it just to try out some different players, even if one of them was João Felix?
I think the
think
problem.
that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
First, I think that João Felix starting is complete bogus. Like, he's a lone player. He shouldn't be on the pitch for the last game of the season.
Mhm.
I don't think that we can rule out any transfers, though, or I think we can't. I think until the new sporting director has his hands in it, we really can't say anyone's leaving. I feel like the past couple months we had feelings that people were leaving, but this just kind of throws a wrench into everything.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say too. Is I don't think we have any idea of what's actually going to happen. The problem is this coach has left people out of lineups before during the season when there was no uncertainty about futures, when everyone was expected to stay and renew, and Conceição wasn't, a dead man walking for 3 months, and he was still leaving.
He may not be a dead man walking.
And then that's the other
It's
turn.
the
Now we're
crazy
seeing that,
part.
and I think it's bullshit, to be honest. I think he still goes, but the reality is we have absolutely no clue who's staying, who's leaving, and the way this season's played out, the way this management operates is all indicators mean nothing. We don't know what they're going to do. They could tell you that, I don't know, to turn right, but you need to turn left. They're just so backwards on everything. You never know what to expect. So all outcomes are possible.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit surprising that they didn't get on the pitch at all because they were clearly no injury problems. Otherwise, they'd have been left out of the squad entirely. But they sat there on the bench. The camera picked them up laughing together at one point. So, I don't know if I have no idea what they were laughing at. But,
the other thing is, if you're preserving them because of future transfers, why did Tijani get 90 minutes? He's the one that's most actively linked away with a big money move to City.
Did
50 million is a big money.
He's not going
80
for 50
million is what I saw.
Did they do that because they think that it would just it'd make it really, really obvious that that's what's happening if you leave Tijani out of the team. Whereas with Leao and Teo, we're here speculating because we've no idea what it means. They've both been benched at various points of the season anyway, and they've both had kind of fractious relationships with both head coaches. So we are left here guessing. But anyway, they were left out. The game was pretty bland. It was more open than I thought it was going to be. It was like a bit end to end, but without much quality in the final third. And I don't even want to talk about the first half. There was nothing that really happened of note, but we scored twice in 10 second half minutes. Matteo Gabbia got the first, and João Felix, with what was almost certainly his last act for the club, got his third of the season and his second in 2 games, as it turns out.
In my head, we won this 3-0, but I guess not.
We should have.
In my head, we lost, but I was thinking about the Roma game.
Yes. Well, that's
Pavlic had an amazing free kick.
Who
right? Pavlic?
Pavlovic did, yeah. Sorry, in the first half, Pavlovic had a free kick, really, really well saved. To be fair, I have no idea why he was allowed to take it, but it was his birthday. So maybe
happy birthday to him.
Fuck it, doesn't matter. Take it. It was a really good free kick. Like, he got it up and over, and it was well saved. But then
allowing the birthday boy to take the set piece is exactly why we didn't beat Fiorentina and why we finished 8th and not 7th to avoid the playoff game in the cup this season. So keep that in mind. Yeah, fuck everyone's birthday. I don't care about that shit. If you have designated takers, that's who should take it. Now, this game was 0 on the line. It didn't really matter, so whatever. But still. I don't like that stuff.
No, me neither. I mean, we were so past the point of being professional at that point, though. Like with everything that's
Yeah.
happened this season,
Yeah.
it's that far gone that I can't look at any incident anymore and think that's disgusting. However, yeah, I agree. I mean, from next season onwards, that kind of pageantry just needs to stop. I got the stats up here, which kind of sort of paint a picture of how the game went, in particular the total shots, where we had 21 of them, 6 of them on target. Their goalkeeper, I actually can't remember his name, so I'm going to look it up quickly, but their goalkeeper had a very, very good game. He was keeping out pretty much everything that was sent on net, including that Pavlovic free kick. But then he could do nothing when his defence abandoned him on the 64th minute for Gabbia to head in the opening goal. Good for him. It's his second of the season. His first one being, of course, the Derby winner. So that will be
And I like that
remembered.
his celebration was very mild. It was kind of like a "I'm sorry" sort of deal. Like I apologize
He
for this
put that up.
season.
He put
Yeah,
up
well,
like
I thought he did
closed
too. It
fist.
was like I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
fight back.
Yeah.
Their goalkeeper Samuel Pizzignacco
Mm.
or Pizzignaccio, he had a good game, but was beaten twice, yeah. And then 10 minutes after that opening goal goes in, João Felix bends in a free kick, shows Pavlovic exactly how to do it. Nothing to say. Like, it could have been
Oh, I
anyone
have a
but
lot
him.
to say. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Go on,
Joao
mate.
Felix pisses me off. I don't care if that was the best free kick I've ever seen. It better be when you're preventing the designated taker from taking it, especially when you're already up, especially when it's your last game at the club as a dry loan. You don't matter. Neither does this game. But the reality is you're making a scene on the field. I don't know if you guys caught it, but he gets fouled. He's lying down next to the ball. He sees Pulisic walking up and bend over for the ball. He rolls on top of it, grabs it, and tucks it under his chest. Looks up and says no to Pulisic.
Like a kid,
And
like a
yeah,
child.
and I'm like, now
Well,
you're
he
just
is a
causing a
child.
scene with more fucking eyes on everything. And then they're still kind of bickering. He's holding on to it. He stands up and he's still like taking it and he won't give it to him, which we've seen this before. And then we miss those like 3 penalties that we gave away, where
Forgot
Pulisic
about
didn't
that.
take it. And granted, this is a free kick, not a penalty, so it's not necessarily Pulisic's the designated guy, but it was the same thing. And then you see kind of arguing about it, and Pulisic finally throws his hands up and walks away. And then, of course, he sinks it, and it's the best free kick you've ever seen, which is the only allowed outcome after you make a scene like that. If it's like a hey, can I take it? And he goes, yeah, sure, whatever. Then I don't really care what happens. But when you're being a child, no, it's my ball. Fuck off. I hate that shit. So he had to score it, and then of course he, points at Pulisic, and then they kind of laugh. He gives him a kiss on the cheek. So no bad blood, but still, it's bad optics for an already bad looking season. We
Yeah,
don't need
it
more of
is.
that stuff. So
I wonder if he
get him
did it
out
as
of
well
here.
because Conceição wasn't on the sideline. That's one of the subplots to this game is that Conceição wasn't even. It was a very silent. What we presume, I know the Sky report last night and stuff has kind of got everyone a little bit worried, but we presume it's his farewell and he spent it up in the skybox and he didn't speak to the media before in his press conference or to the TV cameras, and he didn't speak afterwards. He sent his assistant João Costa up to do it. So whether João Costa was a bit like the supply teacher and was just like, vibe it, lads, it's the last game, nobody cares. I don't know. We'll never know. But yeah, that wasn't great to see play out. And also, I think I keep thinking back with Pulisic. He's had another outstanding season. He's been one of 2 shining lights, really, alongside Tijani Reinders. I can never really criticize what he does on the field for us. But I think back to what Ibra said many months ago about how Pulisic has to assume the character of being a leader. He doesn't have a choice anymore. Like, it's time for him to step up. And he said, be Captain America. And we know that he hates that. But I see his point. It's like, you got to, your quality should mean you are a commanding presence. So command. Like, tell your teammates to fuck off. He should have said to João Felix, give the ball here, you little shit. I'm taking it. But he doesn't, because he's still got that passiveness in his character, but I don't know. I can't bring
He is
myself
passive.
to criticize
He
it.
seems to be non-confrontational, and that's fine as a person, but when you pick a career path as professional athlete and you're the captain of your national team, you're the best player to ever come out of your country, blah blah blah, all these things that we hear about him. you need to be a bit more. I'm not saying you need to be an aggressive prick or anything like that. Like we see that play out all the time, and it doesn't work.
No, but he needs to be more like Clint Dempsey, not Landon Donovan, right?
You don't know where I'm from, dog.
Yeah, we don't
No,
need
but
Clint
like-
Dempsey, but I get what you're saying. Closer to
No, but-
that than
Landon or Clint Dempsey had like a dog in him. Landon Donovan like never was successful in Europe because he was so passive.
Yeah, well, love hearing what he has to say about his time in Europe and how MLS is better. That guy's a fucking clown.
Yeah, I
not
don't
a fan
want
of
to turn
them,
it.
but
I don't want to turn this into like 10 minutes on why Pulisic needs to be more of a man or anything toxic like that. Like genuinely, he's carried us at various moments in the past couple of seasons. But I just think that is an example of a time where he needs to be tougher. He's earned the right to be more selfish, to be more
we should also point out that this was his 100th cap for Milan, and we know he turned down a Gold Cup call up for this summer because he's fucking exhausted and he has lingering injuries from like December that we just have not allowed him to use. Like he's still getting 90s every week or 85 minutes, so maybe he was just kind of like, whatever, I'm beat, I'm tired, whatever, take the damn free kick, I don't care.
Can't be asked arguing with you.
Yeah, like which is fair enough. We don't know mentally
Yeah.
where he's at. I know, like with the season they've had and the coach they've had to deal with, they probably are just fed up with everything.
Fed
So
up
there's that
indeed.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, they're done. A couple of things we should talk about as well. Firstly, it's only a minor note, so I'll skim over it. But Alessandro Florenzi made his return 1 year and 1 day after his last appearance in Serie A, which is crazy. But we brought him on in the 86th minute. I've never seen a more token gesture. Like, there was a report, and I can't remember the exact figure, but like, go on. The keeper coming on.
The goalkeeper last season.
Yeah, Lapo Nava, was it?
Yeah.
Did he throw him on for like the last few minutes?
There was someone who came on for the last few minutes, and then we ended up not winning the last game of the season last year.
Yeah, it was a 3-3 draw. Yeah. Look, I'm happy for Florenzi by all accounts. No, it was Salernitana, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Who were already relegated.
Yeah, they were.
By all accounts, Florenzi is a great bloke. Like, multiple coaches have said how important he is.
Isaac loves him.
And they stick together. He seems to be funny and, charismatic and whatever. And I think that there is a role for people like that. But ideally, they're able to contribute on the field. And for that to be his first appearance in over a year, says a lot about the torture that he's had with injuries. Be interesting to see what happens on his contract front. But Francesco Camarda got the second half. Now, he should have started, let's be honest, because I don't think we needed to learn anything more about Luka Jovic. But I thought he did pretty damn good. Like, I think in some of his appearances months ago, we saw him start the game away against Cagliari, for example. We saw him get big minutes in Champions League games. They were trying to make him the youngest scorer ever. He now can't do that because we're not in it next year. But I thought his game has come on leaps and bounds. He looked bigger. He looked to have more of a presence about him. Yes, opposition tax. Yes, last game of the season tax, so nobody was taking it as seriously. But his hold-up play was pretty good. His movement was good. He was unlucky not to score an amazing goal with a touch.
Oh, would have been amazing.
Mate, I'd have lost my shit. And he had another chance as well, one that he rolled just wide of the far post with his instep, and it took a deflection, and then Gabbia scored from it. But I thought his performance overall was positive, and there's a lot to build on there.
I thought so too. And, yes, we tried to make him the youngest Champions League goal scorer. Well, had he have scored in this game, he'd be the youngest ever AC Milan goal scorer by 5 days, which means he no longer can be the youngest AC Milan ever goal scorer. And that's frustrating, not because I think he needs that title or that the fans needed that title, but because he had so many opportunities that we just didn't give him, and we know he's worthy of the title. Starting Luka Jovic, a guy who potentially won't be here next season, who potentially shouldn't have been here at all this season, regardless of how well he did in the second half. Why? Like, why are we not giving
just
him
another thing that Jerry ruined?
And I don't even know if this one's Cherry. I mean, well,
no,
I guess everything leads back to him, but yeah,
he's the owner, man. Buck
Yoda's calling the shots. Yeah. I think there needs to be a clear plan outlined, for next season. I think if we know what the vision was that we would handle him perfectly, and his transition from Primavera to Futuro to first team would happen really naturally, and he'd be scoring goals at every level regularly. So we had no choice but to play him in the in the first team. But then he gets call-ups because of certain injuries. He gets call-ups because he's good enough to be part of the first team in the eyes of the coach, and he starts games. But then his second half of the season has been really weird. Like I think there was a stat about him being an unused substitute 10 times in Serie A in 2025. Time that he should have been getting minutes for the Futuro, or we actually turned down loaning him to Monza after everything was agreed. Now, we want to see him as a career Milan player, but we've seen what happened with Tonali. We've seen what's happened with so many players who we've put those hopes on and it hasn't really happened. You just need to do the best thing for right now. And if that means 6 or 18-month loan somewhere, then now's the time to pull the trigger on that to aid his development, because 17 very quickly becomes 20, and then it's like, he's another Colombo if things don't go right. I think he's way more talented than Colombo, don't get me wrong, but he can become that if we don't handle him right.
And I do think the longer that we put this pressure on him to be a one club man, or to score his first ever Serie A goal with Milan, or whatever weird titles we want to give him, you're only putting more pressure on a teenager. And eventually he might crack, and he might not reach the levels that we think he can.
Right.
But these are kids playing football. It's not the same as like a boxer who is used to the pressure of the world on them. It's different. He's 16, or he might be 17 now, is he?
17 now, yeah.
Yeah. Which, like you said, very quickly becomes 20. And as I just found out, it very quickly becomes 30. So, it's we gotta do better with him. And I think it's stupid that we had him on the bench for so many games. Like you said, unused sub in 10 games. What was the point? He couldn't play in the relegation playoff for the Futuro. The team we made, let's be real, for his development. It was so he could play against those big boys. And we didn't even use him because he didn't meet the minutes, because we just kept calling him up and not playing him. So I think this was a wasted year for him. Yes, his body developed. He looks bigger, but that's also just a part of growing up, becoming a 17-year-old, and then he's going to get bigger at 18 if he keeps eating right and exercising. It's going to grow for the next few years. That's just how bodies work. But if you're not being played, your skill's not going to improve, because you can practice all you want, but game scenarios are when you really grow. He needs game time. He needs to be playing.
Yeah, 100%. And you sort of given that 45 minutes there to. And like the takeaway is what might have been in terms of this year of his development, rather than, it is excitement for the future as well. But it's more like, do I trust this club to handle him correctly? And I wonder how many other talents, there's the talks over Liberale's renewal, apparently not going very well. Are others within the system thinking, well, if that's going to be my path, then I want to get out of here. It's a realistic scenario.
Maldini, like he left and now he's scoring at
a brace in under a minute.
Yeah.
So.
Top of the match. I'll go Camarda. Why not? It was fun. I enjoyed it. That's what I was watching. That's what I was looking at. When he came on, I was watching him like a hawk, thinking...
It's hard not to, because you want him to score so bad and you don't want to miss it. I actually went to the bathroom, came back, missed Gavia's goal, and I was like, did he score? My wife's like, yeah. I was like, I missed it. And it wasn't him. And I was like, oh, thank fucking God.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was an Italian. Yeah, it was one of them.
Your team scored. That's all I know.
Gabbia might be the answer, actually. I'm happy for him to bookend the season with a goal. And it was a clean sheet, but there wasn't much in the way of world-class attacking talent to come up against Monza, with respect.
Mike had a very good save, though.
Yeah, he did, actually, yeah, he did.
But, I mean, I'm not going to pick a top or
I'm going to go
this one. I'm just...
Gabbia as well, only because I don't want to pick João Felix.
Yeah. Flop Jovic, get out, mate. Starting number 9 against the worst team in the last few years in Serie A, and you just don't even have a sniff. Get out.
It was Musa. Musa was the worst, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one. Oh, my God.
Musa, man. That guy's got to go. Dude. I know Madison likes him.
Musa's my season top, actually.
What's your ride or die? Batazagi, we should mention Batazagi got started
Should we?
left wing back, and I don't think wing back is his position at all. Let's be honest, he's 6'3", 6'4", maybe. He's a big guy. Could he have played left centre back? Yeah,
That's
probably
actually
could
what I
have.
was going to say. Was that I think his build is more indicative of a center back than a fullback.
Mm.
I have no idea how he'd perform there. I've never seen it. Never been a big fan of the kid, but he is a child, so he's got plenty of time to develop. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. We'll move on from that game then. That's a wrap put on 2024-25, and we're going straight for listener questions because some weeks people are down about the team. We get 3 or 4, and they're about the same topic, so there's not too much to ask. But I've got a list of like 7 or 8 here that we're going to go through because instead of doing them all as individual talking points, we're engaging. Irene197. This is on the Discord, which you get via the Substack. So if you want to ask us questions directly, go check that out. What do you think is needed to get Maldini back in Milan's management?
Jerry gone.
Yeah, an asteroid. I don't foresee that happening unless there's new ownership, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. That has to be the answer.
Like, it has to be new ownership that is like Italian, right? Not like, first of all, no Italians buying this club, but they need to have like an Italian hierarchy,
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be an Italian. It's just got to be someone who's in it for the love of the game, not for the love of owning a team. Like it could be a Saudi dude. Yeah, I know. Well, De Laurentiis is in it for the love of the game.
A love for the game and a love for winning could go hand in hand, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
To be ambitious.
Basically what I mean. Yeah, I think Jerry's in it for the love of money and owning a team and ego. But
yeah,
it has.
I won't go into the ethics of.
There's no ego about finishing 8th.
Well, he's hopefully found that out, but I should briefly mention the protests that took place as well during the Monza game. Thousands of fans gathered at AC Milan to protest against the ownership and the leadership and I guess the management and everything else that's gone wrong this season. It was actually a way better turnout than I thought. They displayed several banners. There was chants for Maldini to come back. And then on 50, the ones that they had beef with like ages ago. Oh, man. Then they walked out 15 minutes into the game against Monza. After, do you know what? This was impressive choreography to get themselves. Yeah, to get themselves into literally spelling as people go home.
And it was very legible. Like it was super well choreographed. That was more impressive to me than a lot of like the big painting tifos, which by all means are extremely impressive. But at the end of the day, that's just everyone holds up this piece of paper. This was move bodies where they need to be and spell it out. And like you had to have someone on the other side with a walkie-talkie maybe saying like, okay, it looks good. You guys are this. I don't know how they organized it.
But so quickly. Like
fast.
They must have put tape or something like standing inside there.
Yeah.
Man, it was very, very impressive. And as you say,
it was more impressive than the actual game itself.
It was, it was. And it made worldwide news, like The Athletic picked up on it, and therefore, by extension, the New York Times, Reuters, I think Bloomberg, like it went all around. And I think that's something like that is what is needed, because I've seen people on Twitter saying, well, they should just not show up at all, or like it's stupid them walking out on this minute because they've still gone in the first place. But I think that they're missing the point in terms of the power of that particular message. Not only were they there, but they did something that made worldwide news. If they hadn't showed up, I don't think it would have gone as far.
Yeah, it would have just been an empty stadium.
That hurts the image of the club, right? And that hurts Jerry. And so, like, when New York Times, Reuters, Bloomberg is picking that stuff up, Jerry is just like, fuck off.
Yeah.
And he's getting pissed.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't even. I don't know if Jerry knows how to read, so he might not even be reading that stuff. But
I guess he can.
2 words.
I'm just talking shit.
Something that gets forgotten a lot in these protests, because I agree, an empty stadium hurts their pockets quite a bit. But these are the ultras; they're season ticket holders. They've paid for the game.
It doesn't matter if they're there or not.
Exactly. So if they just don't show up, we already know Jerry's not showing up. He doesn't know they're not there. He doesn't care. But when his billionaire buddies who own The Athletic and the New York Times and all these other papers get these pictures and say, Jerry, what the hell's going on with your team? Because they're not following AC Milan, but they see that and they go, wait, that's Jerry's team. Like, call him out. Now he's
Jerry, who are they
embarrassed by
telling to go
his peers.
home?
In a group
Are
chat.
they
just
mad
like,
at a player?
Yeah. All the billionaire boys. Yeah, but like now it's his peers making fun of him or at least calling him out for it. And that, as a billionaire, you have an ego that's going to upset you. Not that I would know. I wish.
I think it's the difference.
No, you have an ego as a non-billionaire.
For the people who were saying they should have just not showed up, to not show up is a passive protest, whereas what they did is disruptive activism, and that's what gets the headlines. And I think was it Ambrosini said something along the lines of they did as much as they can without crossing a line, And I think that is correct. That's the way to view it. I was fully in support of that protest. I did think go home. Like, I know there's 6 letters, so it's easier for them to organize themselves, but I did wonder if it was like an instruction to the rest of the crowd or
that's what I think
players.
it was. Because at the 15th minute mark when they all left, they were chanting, "Fan, if you're a fan, leave your seats."
Yeah.
And then when they walked out, they said, like, okay, now we're leaving you with just the tourist and the plastics or some shit like that. So yeah, it was an instruction for everyone to vacate, but look, the people in the other seats paid money to be there. They're not leaving.
They actually did pay, yeah. We got to see 2 goals. And a Camarda masterclass.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the Maldini thing, I think a change of ownership's needed. I won't go into the ethics and stuff of like a sovereign wealth fund taking over the club or anything like that. But basically some big money organization or some Maldini-led or Maldini-faced consortium or something like that. That's what it would have to be. Because I think we're either going to be owned by an equity fund or we need that kind of rich state backing thing, which again, I won't go any deeper into that, but that's what it would have to be, I think, for him to come back. Is there a world where Jerry or whoever well, it'd have to be Jerry, but swallows their pride and rings him up and says, look, I made a mistake, we need you back? No, because both parties are stubborn. This is how it will go from now on. Nino asks, how would you rank the following managers in terms of most to least want? And this is he gives 5 options.
Most to least what?
Most to least want to take over.
I don't know why I leaned forward like not headphones. What?
I'm going to narrow it down to 4 because Marseille have officially announced that De Zerbi is staying. So I know he's a nutter. But
it would have been 5 anyways. So no worries.
Yeah. Conte, Mancini, Sarri, Allegri.
Conte number 1. Allegri 2, Sarri 3, Mancini 4.
I put Mancini above Sarri, but basically the same.
Sarri's at least won stuff. I don't know.
I agree with Mancini has. I mean, he won the Euros, but he hasn't managed.
I forgot he was manager there. Yeah.
He hasn't managed.
I feel like he's done things with, like he did good things with the Italian national team. Like that's the only reason why I would entertain that appointment. Also, because I don't have a choice and I'm a fan and I have to watch regardless. But yeah.
He did a good thing. He won the Euros and then he failed to qualify for the next World Cup.
Yeah, so, which is the history of the Italian national team this decade.
He was run out of town.
Yeah, that's not so much him as much as just the Italian national team as a whole.
That's the thing about like national team success. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because it is such a big deal and it's very impressive, but also you are limited by the players produced by the country. So you're never going to be a favorite over like an Argentina or a Brazil unless your country produces 11 players that are of that caliber. And I don't think most countries can do that. You know, you might have a handful of great players. So, well, actually, the inverse of my argument now means that makes it more impressive to win a tournament. But if you're not one of those favorites, so I don't know, maybe it's really impressive.
They beat England in the
final. There has to be like the team has to be clicking at the right time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, look at Brazil and Germany, and I mean, France just won a World Cup, but like, they always have world class players. But look at England; they always have like some of the best in the world, and they always suck. Like always, they don't win anything.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we've reached two 2 finals and a what was it?
Do you want a list of your second
Yeah.
place? Yeah.
Don't worry. Next year we'll be lifting it on your soil. So don't let's. I would say
That'd be the
that I
ultimate
agree
slap
with.
in the face.
It would
It'd be
be
awful.
that would be tough. Yeah, Trump handing the trophy to Harry Kane. Like, what the fuck? That would be a simulation stuff.
But I'd love it because U.S. soccer would be pissed. But we don't have to talk about that. We can go on. But AC Milan.
I agree with AJ's list. I would go con. But the thing with Mancini, why what? I'm just trying to circle it back
It's
around.
a funny way, funny part of Conte's name to stop pronouncing it.
Cunt. He is a bit, isn't he? And I think that's kind of what we need. Really.
100%.
No, we've had enough of that, but we need someone who can win. If they're going to behave that way, they need to at least win to back it up. And we haven't really had that from our abrasive managers this season. Mancini, I would put bottom purely because, he hasn't had a top club job in about 10 years now. The last club that he managed was in 2018. He did a really good and a really bad job with the Italian national team based on the 2 big metrics that he's judged on. But he's been coaching, Saudi Arabia. So it's like, I just don't know. It's a huge risk, is that, to go for him, even if I think he's quite a charismatic and he's not a bad coach. I just think we can't take that risk. And then, Allegri in second. I'm warming more and more to that idea, but I don't know if that's the perception of, Conte might leave Napoli and they've gone straight for Allegri, and we've been sat there for weeks while he's been without a job. We now might just miss out on him.
This is the second summer in a row where the top 3 coaches have been available at the same time. If we don't go for it this year, then I don't know what'll ever fix Milan.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
not having the owner that we do.
Yeah.
But we do have a sporting director now who is clearly the one in charge, so at least we think.
Is it that clear? I don't know.
I'd actually wonder how the hierarchy works. Like, Moncada's chief scout?
I don't know.
He's technical director on paper, but now we'll probably go back to being more of a chief scout. Yeah. It actually says
Fulani is
CEO. It says in the official statement that Tare will report directly to the club's chief executive officer, Giorgio Fulani. So if you need, that's in paragraph 1 that it says that as well. So if you need a reminder of how the hierarchy works, it's Fulani, then everyone else. Make of that what you will. I think
I don't believe that.
We absolutely need.
What they say.
I mean, I think it's very true.
I would believe it for sure.
When Ibra and Cardinale started meeting sporting directors in London, and then Fulani flew over to the USA to slap down his mandate with 2 lawyers, I think he, as part of that, he will have said, you need to make clear in every public statement coming up that they report to me. It's what it is.
Who does Ibra report to?
Jerry. He works for Redbird. He doesn't work for Milan. Yeah, the board, actually. Yeah.
God.
Weird situation. Jesus.
Yeah.
That random meow was exceptional.
Oh, she's right here. He works for me.
That was the lion.
To get involved and make more sense than what we do. But yeah, it's whatever. Like, I don't think it's unheard of. In fact, I think it's very common for everyone within a managerial structure to report to the CEO, who then reports to the owner. Like, he's the one in charge of the money. Of course, everyone reports to him. So don't. But I just thought it was interesting that in the very first paragraph that was mentioned. JT Physio says, if we sell Reinders to City, I'd like to see Milan use the funds to sign Morten Frendrup and Samuel Ricky. Who would you guys use the funds on to upgrade the midfield?
I don't know. Honestly, it's not a good answer, but the problem is Ricci's not a Reinders replacement. He's someone you get in addition to Reinders, and then you still need a defensive midfielder. He doesn't.
Kevin De Bruyne. But he's going to Napoli.
Yeah, he's also not a defensive midfielder.
No. We also
get
don't
him
have
in as
one
the
right
creative midfielder, and you maybe play Frendrup as the.
For me, if we sell Tijani, dude, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do next season.
Fucks everything up. Yeah. Because right now we're with all the players that we currently have, we're building on a strong core, right? Like there's chemistry with the defense and the midfield and the attack. Like you don't want to screw that up. There's chemistry because they played together for a season, not because they're playing well. I want to make that clear. But when you sell your top midfielder, if Teo leaves, if Liao leaves, that is 3 huge holes, regardless of like how you think their season went, that you have to replace. And I know the question was about midfielders, but
I don't think we'll see more than one star leave. I think we might see Tijani leave because he's the one most heavily linked away, and City's going to be relentless. That's just how they are. But if that happens, I think Mike renews, Liao stays, Teo stays. Teo might even renew because it doesn't sound like people want him. You know, the reports were that he offered himself to Real Madrid and they said, no, thanks. Where do you go? PSG? They don't need him.
Yeah.
They're about to win the Champions League, hopefully. You know? So.
Yeah, let's manifest that. It's like the Moneyball thing, innit? You know, if you lose a big player, do you try recreate it in the aggregate, or do you go to try and sign a star? You know, do you if we get 80 million off City, do you just chucks all at Newcastle for Tonali, and there's an instant PR win to get everyone back on side?
That would be the dumbest thing we could do, because the reason we sold Tonali was because, look at all the money we're getting for it, and then to spend more than what we got for him to bring him back. It's just
it would fix our Italian problem that we were talking about a few episodes ago.
I don't know if it'd fix it.
Get Tonali, get Ricci, or Ricci, however you say his name. That is an Italian midfield bound to win things.
It doesn't have the chemistry. Win. I don't know. To me, it's just like, look, the whole Moneyball thing. The only player from the algorithm that was successful was Tijani Reinders. Why would you then turn around to him? I'm not counting him as a part of it. He was a known quantity. I mean, even if he was not having a good time at Chelsea, like, the world knew who he was. Not many people
did they
Reinders prior.
Also, when you think about it, we sold Tonali for what? It was like 70 mil guaranteed, and we spent 60 million of it on Reinders, Musa, and RLC to rebuild the midfield, and it was 1 out of 3 hits. You know, Pulisic was almost like a separate deal we were going to do anyway. We needed to bring in 3 midfielders, and only one of them has so far performed, and I think will perform in general. Is it different this time around because the money would be used by Iglitare, who, you know, has had to get used to stars leaving and things like that? Maybe that is one way to look at it, but I just think that if you're an incoming sporting director and you're wanting to build a winning project and take a team from 8th into the Champions League places and beyond, if your first thing is to sanction the sale of Reinders, it's not a great start, is it?
No, it's not. Now, I do think it's easier to come in and say, oh, okay, we're losing this one guy, so I just cross him off my list, take the biggest offer I can. Like, if the management's saying, we're giving you the keys, but just know we're selling him because we have this big offer, and we're going to let you use that money however you want. I think it's real easy to say, okay, yeah, fine. I didn't have him anyways. You know, like, I never really had him as a player. So I could see that for Tare, but the other thing is I don't know if I could trust a guy season 1 with the club as a sporting director, because you don't know what he's been given to operate with.
Mm-hmm.
So he might be the greatest director in history. If he's not given the funds to operate on that, it doesn't matter.
No, but is it partly funds and is it partly freedom? So, for example, Tare, Fellaini could say to Tare, here's 100 mil net spend. That's what you're allowed until we're financially fucked. But you cannot sell Reinders. But what if part of the freedom that Tare requested in these talks before he joined was, I want power over who I sell as well. And actually, I would sell Reinders for 80 million because I think that's above his market value. And I know exactly who I'd go out and get. What if that was part of the discussions? It's like, trust. Like, I will revamp the squad.
And that's what I'm saying. It's easy as an incoming sporting director to look at stars and say, yeah, this guy's getting a major offer. I don't care if he's the best on the team because I'm confident I can replace him. And when you're outside looking in, you never had him working for you. You never
Yeah,
had that
yeah,
player.
yeah.
So it's just easy to be like, well, that's, not really my thing. I didn't have him. It doesn't affect me. Whereas if it was someone who had been there a year and said like, okay, we got to rebuild this, and I know that's my guy, I cannot lose him. It's different.
Yeah, everything's viewed under a different lens now.
Yeah.
We've got a new sporting director because we're kind of guessing what the strategy is until he does his first big interview and says, and even then he's not going to reveal all the cards against his chest, is he? He's gonna be vague about stuff. But until we hear exactly what he has in mind, is he going to come in and say the Scudetto is the target next season? Because then we know a top coach is hoped.
That's what
to come in.
Fonseca
Then we
said.
know. Look, he's he's having a year out. Good on him. JT Physio also asks, do you think Cardinale will attend a match at San Siro again? I don't think for a while. I really don't.
If things turn around,
I don't know why he's not going. Is it because he's going to get hate? No,
yeah.
Why
team
wasn't he at the
sucks.
Coppa Italia final?
Yeah, that's crazy to me. That's crazy.
know,
And I
like-
think it's because of the multitude of protests. Like if things turn around come September, when we inevitably play the Derby in round 5, he might be there, if we've won those first 4 games and things are looking good, and all of a sudden people are kind of all in the past.
Jerry.
Nobody's gonna be cheering his name, but they might not be saying "Get the fuck out, Jerry." And if it's no longer a hostile environment, he might show up.
Yeah.
And I hope, not for his sake, for our sake as fans, I hope that's the case.
Yeah, it's not good for us to have an owner who's absent.
No,
physically.
we laugh about it,
Right.
but it is not good. No, you look at the strongest. I'd say most of the strongest teams around Europe at the moment. It is very stable and it is very clear who is in charge, and they have a very present management and ownership. And ours, when the going got tough, they just fucked off. We didn't hear from them, and that starts, and the book stops with the owner. I saw a banner that got hung over a road on the way on the highway on the way into Milan, and it said "Yankee go home."
I saw that.
And it's like that's part of the problem. He is at home, like he's not involved. You're telling him to do that, but what we actually mean is get more involved. Show that you care. That's what we really need.
No,
not
I don't think
stay
that's
at
what they
home.
mean. I think they're saying sell the club. That's what they're
No, but
saying.
they've done that. They've done all the,
Yeah.
Vatine, Vendine, like sell the club stuff. That's all been done. So, like, what's the message now? Stay at
This
home.
is the second year in a row that they've told him to sell the club.
Yeah.
Like,
But this is the first time we've had results this bad. And actually, what is
In
the
a long
points
time.
difference between first and where we're at, how the season
29.
ended? 19. So we actually did better this year than last
19.
year.
Yeah, we did finish second. I'd take the second place finish last year.
But we were 20 points off last year, so we're closing the gap.
I had no
boys.
idea that our points per game average under Pioli last year was 1.98, which, usually if you're in and around 2, it's definitely Champions League football. And I think that was one of the lowest that he'd had.
What was it this year?
Now we're on about 1.67, something in that region, which is just nowhere near.
Yeah,
In the end, I thought when we lost some of those games in like the February-March time, I thought we could potentially finish 10 points away from a Champions League place, and it would look embarrassing. And as we were saying, going into those final games on Sunday night, like we were a good result or 2 away from being in, and that's the margins. But we don't deserve it.
Scares me because
Yeah.
Jerry could look at that and be like, they weren't that far off. Everything is going fine. So they were unlucky a few times, I wish it was much more of a points disaster than it actually was, because that would send a bigger message of, oh shit, I need to fix this. Whereas now he might be like, yeah, it was, they if they didn't miss 2 penalties against Fiorentina and didn't concede a last minute equalizer to Inter, they would have been in. Which is like, that's true. But that tells him I could just keep doing exactly as we are.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we've already established, based on the comments from Furlani and basically everyone that's stood in front of a microphone in the past few weeks, Moncada included, that's not an option they're considering, is doing very little. They know that it's been way below acceptable. They can't just try and fine-tune their way back into the top 4. I think they know that the time... Furlani used the word reset in his comments on Tare's statement, which makes me think we this is just the start, and Tari is going to be given the reins, but he's going to be supported and maybe even encouraged to make some difficult decisions. It's a massive summer coming up. If we end up doing nothing, I want a busy summer work-wise.
Yeah.
I want loads to do because that means that we're doing things, obviously. If it's quiet, then I'll be very worried we get more of the same next season. Milan Forza 7 asks, do you think Tari looks like Mitchell from Modern Family, but older?
That's funny
I'll
as
share,
shit. I can
I'll
see
share
that.
an image. I'll share an image here of Mitch from Modern Family. Or is this ugly Tari? What do you think?
No, I can see it 100%. That's
Yeah.
so funny to
could
me.
see it for sure.
Yeah, I quite like that. That's a good shout. And also, I'd say a bit could be like his older brother, because Tari's got a bit more of an Eastern European head, shall we say? But I like that. That's a good shout. Kid Azaru 22, has Leao become more of a style over substance player with such
No.
inconsistent performances this season? Is it time to stop treating him like the face of the project?
You say that, but he still had more goals or equal goals and assists to who will be named league MVP, Scott McTominay. He had more chances created than any player in Europe, more successful take-ons, more dribbles. He is still one of the top players in world football. The problem is not Leao. The problem is when the team is doing bad, Leao's style looks worse because it's a mostly inactive style off the ball. You're not going to get defensive action out of him. We did get some actually this season, so I take that back. But the offensive output from Leao has factually never been better. It's just the end product of those goals, be it assists, whatnot, which, again, equaled the season MVP. It's not there because of the caliber of attack that we have. It's the other players letting him down. And I don't even know who it is that's letting him down, honestly. I think more than anything, it's just our defense letting us down because the output's there from Leao, the output's there from Pulisic. I guess Striker's been a little up and down all season, but yeah,
We
Leao's
played
still
so
a
many
top player.
different strikers.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's only so many strikers that we have, but like the back and forth is just like
We played
Wait, we
Morata,
started-
Tammy, Jimenez, Camarda, Jovic. 5 strikers. That's crazy.
5 strikers.
Okafor.
Yeah,
And Okafor. So 6. Serie A champion.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yes,
Serie A.
Okafor's
The 2
Calabria
players
winning.
with the most trophies this season is Calabria and Okafor.
Yeah. What do you think of the Calabria anyone got a cigar thing?
I mean, look, we knew that
That's
relationship was
phenomenal.
spoiled from day one, or not day one, but whenever that game was, we said,
Early
"Oh,
on.
that ain't going well." Yeah, all the power to him. He also didn't shake his hand, Conceição, to Calabria after the Super Cup, so don't be a bitch, and you won't get treated like one.
I don't hold any ill feeling towards Calabria because I think it's very obvious he's been treated with a lack of respect by Conceição, and I don't think he's the only one of our players that would have a story to tell about that. I do. There's always be part of me that doesn't really like to see that. Like, surely your focus is on celebrating a trophy with Bologna rather than your old manager.
It's
But-
normal though. When we won the Scudetto, it was put the Coppa Italia up your ass, Hakan, son of a whore.
God, I wish
we were
we'd have Coppa Italia to celebrate this time.
Exactly. But that's just how it is. It's always the winners are always talking shit to the people that pissed them off mid-season, that had something to say, that did something to them. It's just how it goes. You rub it in. So I have no problem.
Yeah, on just back on the Leao thing. This season he got, what did he get? 12 goals and 13 assists in 50 games. So it's a goal contribution every 2 appearances on average. It's not bad, but again, we're talking about probably the 3rd or 4th season. I know he's been here 6 seasons, but probably the 3rd or 4th season where we're saying, will Leao take that leap? Will he become a 20-goal man? Will he become the bona fide leader of the attack? And the answer has been no, unfortunately. And the output is not terrible. It's not 10 goals and assists combined. It's 25. It's still notable. And yes, he remains our game breaker. He remains our biggest threat in open play, especially in the open field. However, he's been outscored by Pulisic and Reinders, this season at least.
I think the one aspect of his game that struggles is goals. Always.
Yeah, end product,
Which,
I'd say in general,
he's-
decision making.
with the flair that he has, he should be scoring way more goals. That should not be the biggest error of his game. Is goal
I
scoring.
think with the
He's a
with the
winger. Like
size,
that's one of his sole jobs.
with the size that he has, he should score more than he does. I mean, it was Pioli who said, and then I think Fonseca followed it up and said the same, that he's 6'2" and he's big.
so big.
Like, having seen him in the flesh, he's way bigger than you think. You know, he's
Yeah.
like got a strangely massive physique.
It's
I say
weird
strangely.
because he looks scrawny on TV, but when I was
Yeah.
face to face with him, I gave him a fist bump. I mean, he towered. I felt so small. Like, granted, I'm not a big guy. We all know that, but like, he was fucking big.
At least you can
and I was like,
finally admit it.
whoa. No, I'm just
Finally,
not.
like, been in denial about it.
I'm just not an Oompa Loompa like you described me as. We're like a quarter inch different in height. It's crazy. Like Madison's
You and Liao, right? Not you and me.
Look, Madison's only a big guy in one aspect, and it's not height. So,
But basically,
rude.
using the height that Liao has to arrive for some far post headers, and to muscle more space inside the box, and all the things that you see wingers with size doing. But I don't think that'll ever be his game. You know, he cares more about doing things with the ball at his feet, and that's fair enough. And we've seen some amazing things that we haven't seen since the days of like prime Kaká. Genuinely, stuff that Liao's done in terms of beating players, being electrifying. We'll always hold that in a very, very high regard. He's like a box office player. He's the one that you pay to go and see. But the question that we've been asking, as I said, over the last 3-4 years, can he become more consistent? Can he raise that level of output even further? The answer has been an affirmative no. This is what we're getting from Liao now. He's going to be that 10 goal, that 15 assist man, season on season. We're not getting any more than that until he totally changes the way that he is. And you know, I just think that like we either need to accept that and you sort of build the team around that a little bit, but then I think you can also very logically ask the question, does he deserve a team building around him? You know, if he had become that 20-25 goal man, yeah, absolutely. You build a team around him. But now I think there's question marks, and I'm not saying go out and sell him, but I just think that in terms of the original question about him being the face of the project, I don't know if he is that anymore. You know, we've spoken more about Pulisic and Reinders this season for a reason, because they've been better.
I just want to throw a couple things out here, unrelated to Liao. I just got the notification. Gasperini and Atlanta renewal talks broken down. Possibility of leaving. And then Roma have an agreement with Fabregas.
What?
Yeah.
That's strange.
Also, we're renewing Mike, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen. Well, is that a Shearer thing?
Yeah.
I think that will happen. I really do. I think we'll end up renewing him. I don't think Teo stays, but I think Mike renews. We've got some information coming out on the Substack later today, which I'll tell you boys about after we finish recording. But all I can do is tease it. It's a new candidate for the managerial role, and I think it's quite a good one.
Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, it is Pep. No, it's Klopp who said Roma are bullshit or whatever he said.
Yeah.
The final question I had on my list was from Andrew Mahakata, and it's what is an effective protest to get this management changed? And I know we've spoken about the protest, so we won't go back over it. But I think that what we saw in the Monza game is as good as can be done right now. Now, the most effective form of protest against this particular ownership, the one that gets Jerry taking notice, we know is economic. So you stop buying the merch, you stop showing up, you don't buy tickets, people don't renew their season tickets, things that hurt them in the pocket to be like, oh, this economic asset that we have is now being damaged. The problem with that is that, as we all are, Italians are impatient. They want things to make a point now. It takes a year to make a point about season ticket sales. You know what I mean? Like, it's not an instant banner that says "get the fuck out." That they always prefer that, and I get it. You know, when thousands gather at AC Milan, that is obviously going to be relayed to the senior management, 100%. But in terms of how you enforce change, you sometimes forget fans are not just people who show up and they want their team to win, and if they don't, they go home disappointed. Fans are financial stakeholders as well. You know, there are things that can be done. It's just the problem is that it takes time for them to realize that they've not sold as many shirts and that they haven't sold as many tickets, whereas people want the instant protest, you know.
Yeah.
Wrap it there. Nice one.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching this week's episode, everybody. Another joyous one. As I keep saying, massive summer ahead. We're going to have loads of stuff on the site and, of course, over on the Substack. So give it a final plug of 2024-25. And from now on, we'll move on to our summer stuff. Some end-of-season awards. We're going to do some looking back at pre-season predictions, which is always a good one. On the bonus pod, we're going to be doing a deep dive on Iglitare specifically later this week, unless anything else major breaks before then. But in the meantime, have a fantastic week, everybody.